All right. Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. I am Joey Laswell, aka the Fire Social Worker, and I am excited. I am beyond excited to introduce my guest, the AI social worker, Dr. Marina Badillo-Diaz. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Joey, for having me. I'm also just super pumped to be on your show and your event here today. I know we've been following each other and just really supporting each other on this virtual, social media platform space. And it's just super awesome that we're able to connect in this way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a testament to society. Sorry, I was making sure it was live. So, yeah, we're embracing technology in all of its excitement, but faults and flaws sometimes. But we're making it work, and I just wanted to introduce I mean, first of all, I mean, we're on LinkedIn, so everyone can kind of like see your CV or your accolades. But for those, because this is streaming all over different platforms, so I also wanted to kind of just give you your credit and just show all the things that you've been doing. So you are a professor at you're a professor, a researcher, a school social worker, an administrator, a consultant, and entrepreneur. You're also a School Social Work Association of America board member, and you recently have been a speaker at the NASW conference and other symposiums and all. I mean, I guess my question is, do you ever sleep? And how do you function doing all these things and managing your schedule? That's just impressive to me.
Well, thank you, Joey, and it definitely is through experience, but also I just love the social work profession and field, and it's so dynamic. I've grown from doing community mental health practice to being a school social worker to then being an administrator in a school, and then I really have shifted my career after I graduated with my DSW in 2021. I shifted into teaching part time, so I'm teaching at a couple different universities. I've also been doing research. I did a fellowship with the U.S. Department of Education, and more recently, I've been sort of in this space of doing consulting in schools for school social work, but also now in the realm of AI. So I launched the AI social worker back in January, and it's really been taking off. But I do sleep, but this is what I love. I'm just so energized by this work, but also being a consultant and a professor allows me some flexibility with my time to really do some amazing projects and meet with amazing folks like yourself to do some really great work.
That's awesome. And just as you mentioned, January was when I discovered you on Substack, and I was just I decided that I was going to start writing about social work. I don't know. I was just in this space where I'm like, I want to do something. I want to create something, and I got on Substack, and I discovered you. And it was really interesting and cool because it was very sci-fi-ish. There was something cryptic about like your persona, and I was just really intrigued, and I started following your stuff all the way back in January. So the fact that I'm talking to you right now is a testament to how cool. What is this is a crazy life that we're living right now, but this is really cool. um so yeah, I've been following your work for a while. And I'm new to social work in the sense of like I've only been a social worker for a year or less than a year, and I've only been recently certified in financial social work as of May. But once again, like with your passion for AI, like I have this passion for finance, personal finance, and financial social work. So I'm trying to use my platform to change the narrative about finances and encourage social workers to start talking about finances, because we have a huge platform, and we can do a lot of amazing things. So yeah, I'm just loving this space and being able to collaborate with people like you. I was on Baz Moreno's podcast, just like you were, and the Social Worker Rants podcast. So it's just really cool to be a part of this space and trying to elevate each other's messages. But we're all on the same team. So as obviously as we're going to get into, AI is here and it's not going to go away. So how do we tackle that? How do we engage with that? And how do we manage our expectations around it, and just utilize it as a tool for good. And that's
Mhm.
I'm maybe an idealistic, optimistic type of person, but I feel like we can use it for good. So that's one thing that I definitely want to talk about at some point, is just, can how can we harness this technology and these things for good, while also understanding that there are implications here. There are, ethical concerns, privacy concerns, and all these things. Um, so we're definitely, yeah, we're gonna get into that. But yeah, I'm once again, I'm blown away by your resume, everything that you're doing. Like, you're you're the future social worker that I want to be right now, right? You're living that dream. So I just, I'm fanboying right now.
Thank you.
um
Thank you.
yeah. So we do, like, I did have a lot of interest in this event from, like, a lot of people in the social work space, and I don't know if necessarily they're going to watch live, but this is the cool thing about this. It's live streaming, but it's evergreen content, so people can be stumbling upon this, at a week down the road, a couple days, a month, a year, who knows. So I'm just, like, if it if we don't have any live streamers, that's fine. But if we do, I definitely want to encourage people to join in. But see, now that I'm wondering, okay, it says I'm live on LinkedIn, so I don't know if you're able to verify that, or I was going to try to pull it up, but make sure that it's working. Um, I think we do have 3 people on LinkedIn. So
Great. That's
all
great.
right, so yeah. And it's people might be coming from work, and I get that. So we're just trying to make it work with our schedules. So yeah, that's what we're doing it at this time. We're doing it live. As you heard earlier, my dog was barking, and I have a 4-year-old who doesn't understand that I'm live streaming right now, and he might be banging on the door screaming. So this is definitely live. um, all right. Well, so with all that being said, I did have a few questions that I wanted to kind of start the conversation going, and focusing really on the AI stuff initially. And I actually, of course, I'm going to ask ChatGPT to generate some questions for us, just because, obviously, why wouldn't I? This is the AI social worker I'm talking to. Um, so I asked it a series. I asked it to create a couple of. Um, I had an ask, like, well, okay, some professional and focused questions about the implications of AI in social work, and then I also asked for some fun questions that, maybe later on in the broadcast we can touch on a few of them. But right off the bat, I guess, you've explained your origin story on a couple of different interviews, but real briefly, you know, can you give us your elevator pitch on the AI social worker?
Yeah, I mean, just really short and sweet. The AI social worker is really meant to be an advocacy platform to give out information for free on the implications of AI in social work practice, to use it both ethically and responsibly.
I
There
love
we
it.
go.
Yeah, you've got that elevator pitch down. I love that. And I'm
Practice.
sure it might evolve a little bit over time as AI evolves, because I think you mentioned in one of your other podcasts, where with Baz, you're like, as soon as this episode drops, it might be outdated, by the time it launches. Even though this is live, by the time we're done with this stream, it could be outdated. So that's how fast this stuff is evolving and changing and adapting. Um, but yeah, it is important to talk about, and I think in the social work space, we need to, this is a serious conversation that we need to think about, and ask these difficult questions sometimes. Because I was actually at an ethics CEU course a couple of months ago, and the instructor brought up AI in the ethical
Yeah.
realm. And everyone in the room almost seemed like they were really down on AI, and I was the only person that actually raised my hand and said, well, what about the positive implications of this technology? Like, no one was really asking those questions. And I just saw it as an opportunity of potential, um I see AI as almost like a Google on steroids, or your a personal assistant
Mhm.
that takes what you put in and makes it almost better in some ways. So it makes me feel like a superhuman sometimes.
Mhm.
um, I like to think of it as my AI sidekick. I've actually, and this might be a little too much, but I've nicknamed my Chat GPT to be Chet.
I love
Um,
that.
and and I don't know, I might be of the super user
Mhm.
territory of my ChatGPT use. I don't know if you've seen this, but you can actually download all of your prompts, and you can go into the ChatGPT website, and it'll you can download everything that you've asked it, all the conversations that you've had. And I looked at mine and I was like, wow, I think I might be addicted to my chat GPT a little bit. But I'm just so used to it. I love it, like I'm embracing it, so have you had any experiences like that where you use it a
Yes.
lot?
Yes. Oh wait, what's just so funny is one of my really good friends, I've been helping them adopt and integrate AI into their life. And it's a little bit of like, okay, I'm gonna try this, try that, try this prompting. And then yesterday he texted me, he's like, this is a little addicting, this AI. And I'm
Yeah.
like, honestly, I use it every day. Seriously,
Yeah.
every day. It
Hmm.
helps me in so many different ways. I love that you called it a sidekick. I really see it as my personal assistant that
Hmm.
just helps me with my everyday tasks. I do a lot for my consulting business, for my training, for my teaching. So I do use a lot for professional uses,
Hmm.
but even
Hmm.
personal uses too. Like it can help me make recipes, it helped me plan a trip. So there's so many ways that you could use AI, not just for your professional work, but even for personal things too.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm also looking at it from the personal finance perspective too. Like, how can we embrace AI in the finance space? And I know there's talks of that happening, and they're working on it behind the scenes.
Mhm.
But I feel like the integration it's almost like a gold rush, where it's like all these companies are now jumping on board. You have AI infused everything, and I feel like it's definitely having a moment. But
Mhm.
once again, as we pull back, I think we do need to have those substantive discussions about, okay, this is a great tool and all, but maybe we can have some caution and just kind of take a few steps back and really start thinking about like the legislation, the advocacy, like you've mentioned, AI literacy, and I think that is a great. I love that because a lot of people, like, just like with financial literacy, that's a whole thing. But then AI literacy, digital literacy, it's a whole new paradigm. So we got to get on that.
Mhm.
And I love that you're asking these questions at the level that you're at. At the School Social Work Association. You're
Mhm.
advocating at the NASW level.
Mhm.
I'm hoping that we could maybe start talking about it at the CSWE level and be like, okay, what is that implications going to be? And you're already using it in the teaching realm. So um, yeah, it's just really I love what you're doing with the space, and I just want more social workers and non-social workers, like, let's mental health professionals, helping professionals. I
Mhm.
mean, at this point, everyone everyone needs to be on board and learn and educate themselves, try it out, and find out that how does it going to work for you.
Mhm.
But yeah, I love these types of discussions. And I mean, obviously I follow your stuff on LinkedIn, and you're putting out practical things to use as social workers. And I think that is really great because it's giving social workers a chance to, like, dabble with it and experiment with it, and maybe see that it's not so bad as they think it is. So yeah, it's just I love the fact that we're having this conversation. But I also, I encourage other people to join in. I'm going to see if anyone is, because I'm not. The thing is, I'm using the StreamYard, and I'm just. It can be challenging to try to manage the stream and comments and things like that as they come in. But yeah, at that point, we'll just stick to our conversation, and then if comments come in, then we'll just deal with that.
Well,
um,
Joey, I actually wanted to ask you a question too, because you mentioned
Yeah.
when you were in that space of the training that you felt like the room was quite leaning towards a negative space around AI. And so I'd
Mhm.
love to sort of hear from you. What was your sort of take on what are some of the concerns and the negative things that social workers are saying about AI?
Sure, sure. Yeah, obviously, I think the biggest concern was the HIPAA compliance, the privacy protections, because the presenter uh, had put up a kind of a use case scenario of a I forget the name of it's a legitimate company that is used by therapists to check, like, to record your sessions, and then it
Mhm.
creates notes for you. And
Yep.
I'm blanking on the name, but they basically, she brought that up as like, okay, would you use this, and what are your concerns with it? And a lot of people were like, I don't know, I don't like it. I mean, like, yeah, they admitted that they don't like taking notes or doing notes. Like, no one likes
Right.
doing notes. But
Yeah.
I saw it as a potential of like, okay, yes, we all hate taking notes. If this is a HIPAA compliant tool that has gone through the due diligence and is vetted, if you will, then
Yep.
why wouldn't we use it? Like, just like any other platform, any other tool, it's just a tool.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And so I always want to honor, people's concerns. I've certainly also gotten some pushback, some concerns regarding the ethical use, HIPAA, how is this going to impact us socializing as humans together? Are we going to
Mm,
completely be replaced? Is my job going to be taken? Or and so it was interesting because somebody when I was at the NASW conference, a woman came up to me. She's like, I just want you to know we've been having the same conversations when Google and the internet just started, right? So I know that I think this just sort of happens with every wave of new technology, and we have to ride
mhm.
the wave, go
Yeah.
through our experiences or feelings about it, but then also start to learn the values and the pragmatic use of these tools while also ensuring that we are keeping with ethical standards, guidance. I think that's the great thing about being a social worker in our training is that we are trained to think critically. We are trying to think about how is this going to impact society? How is it going to impact our marginalized communities? Our marginalized communities here as part of the conversation in the forefront? Are we thinking about, who's going to be exploited by using these tools? So I welcome
Mm,
that conversation in social work. But just like you, I'm also here to stretch our field a
yeah.
little bit, sort of think
Mhm.
more broadly of how can we think about this being utilized to enhance our services, to make it more efficient, to help us with self-care so that we're not
Mm,
bogged down doing notes for hours? Because I've certainly been there. I had 11 clients scheduled in the day. I had to do all these notes, keeping up with the 24-hour, 40-hour deadline. And
yeah.
one of those companies that you had mentioned, Barry's AI, they are a AI company designed to help clinicians, mental health professionals, and also social workers, where you can have, yes, your sessions are recorded and they can be then create a note after your session. You can customize it, the template, to fit your needs as a practitioner. But these tools also are built in for safety and security. So they're encrypted, they're on databases. The data is not shared, it's not tested on, it's not sold to another company. Because these are, again, having that social work mindset, we want to always
Mhm.
question what is that data being used for, and how. But also there's that HIPAA compliance because your client has to sign off on using it. And the other interesting thing about this tool, Barry's AI, is that your client could also get a copy of the transcription. So I think a lot
Ah.
about transparency in the use of these
Mm,
tools. And again, this is a great example that if I am a social worker who feels comfortable, who wants to use these tools, Barry's AI could be a great tool in conjunction of your practice, where again your clients are going to be signing a HIPAA form, and they can even get a copy of that recording and transcription of your sessions as well.
mm. I
Mhm.
never even thought about that. The implications of, like, yeah, having them get access to the same data. It's not like they're trying to hide it or anything like that. It's just like, yeah, I like that. It's a two-way street. And
Yep.
then they can also, and that's the other thing. I've had sessions, mental health counseling sessions that, it would have been nice to have a little bit of a reminder of like, okay, what did we talk about? Because like sometimes it all happens so fast and there's so many things going on that it would be nice to have a kind of a recap of like, okay, this was what we talked about in the session, you know? So I like
Yeah.
that. Hmm.
Definitely, because I mean, again, if you we are many of us are in community mental health practices. We might have 35 to 40, 45 clients, and so we are human. We're not going to remember everything, and I think this could be a
Hmm.
really helpful tool. And I emphasize, it's not about replacing us humans. I don't think AI should be replacing therapy and therapists, but I do see an immense opportunity for it to really be a tool to really help us be more effective and efficient.
Yes, absolutely. Um, yeah, that's and I actually wanted to I you had mentioned another AI tool called Alongside, and I was really curious to kind of pick your brain a little bit about that, because so kind of can you give us a brief description of it for people who are not familiar with it and kind of talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, so for all those who are working as school social workers or in the realm of K through 12 education, Alongside is a chatbot app for adolescents. So it is geared towards middle school and high school that a school can get a contract with Alongside. So their students can have access to this chatbot app that's been trained by mental health clinicians and mental health professionals, where teenagers can simply have a conversation with a chatbot. Their research is showing that majority of them are using it just to simply be validated, their
Yeah.
feelings be validated. A lot of them are also using it for problem solving, to talk to a chatbot. And I think this is so powerful because, again, if you're a school social worker, you know there's only one of us, maybe two of us for an entire
Hmm.
school building. And it's just a
Hmm.
great way for students to have, again, increased access and accessibility to a mental health tool, again with the power of AI. And what's really amazing about this partnership with Alongside, when you get access to this app with your school, is that, let's just say a child is in crisis, they're suicidal, there's something egregiously going wrong. Alongside's team will alert the school's crisis team, who will then follow up with the student, again with that human connection, that human follow-up, to make sure, okay, they're in crisis, we need to step in. So again, it's not like they're using it without any oversight. And I think this is a great partnership because, again, sometimes as school social workers, we don't always know who's in crisis, and this is another great
Hmm.
way to help get our students help that they need. And again, it's not replacing humans. What I really love
Hmm.
about Alongside, it's really working alongside the school
Yeah.
practitioners to really do this work. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, whenever you described that before in
Mhm.
another episode or another broadcast, I was like, man, that's actually really cool, and it could be
Mhm.
genuinely helpful, because, like you said, you're one or two people in the whole school. You cannot reach all these students, and if the students are more comfortable, especially with phones, every kids are much more comfortable on their phones, so
Mhm.
they might not even want to talk to their own family members,
Right.
but they would be more comfortable talking to an anonymous but
Mhm.
insightful chatbot, that, like
Mhm.
you said, has been trained by mental health professionals. I think that's the other thing that I think a lot of people don't understand, or maybe underappreciate, is that
Mhm.
we have as with any tool, like there's the concept of garbage in, garbage out. So we can train these tools for good and with great data, and
Mhm.
it's going to be a representation of what we put into it. So there are probably some really bad AIs out there that are just like being monetized and thrown out there with like no due diligence or anything like that. So I
Mhm.
like the fact that this platform and other platforms, I'm sure, are being vetted. They're being researched, and uh, like I said, vetted and really put through its paces. And I know
Mhm.
that there's going to be iterative processes. There's probably going to be some things that happen that aren't great.
Mhm.
Maybe the chat bot steers them in the wrong direction, maybe, or um I don't know. There's always going to be a potential for negative, because, like you've said before, AIs
Yeah.
are not perfect, and we
Right.
do have to be prepared for that. But every time that we train it with good information and maybe even good feedback, because what I've seen with ChatGPT is that, like, you can put a prompt in there and it'll give you like a 75% good result. But then
Mhm.
you actually need to, at least from my experience, you need to add more to it and add more context and flavor to it, and really, like, I could write a whole paragraph, and and it'll spit out something that's decent, but then I won't like something, and then I'll say, you know what, actually change this thing about it, and it'll write the whole thing out with that whole new element. So I just love that it is a learning language. It is, it is growing with you. And a lot of people, I don't know if they realize that there's a memory component to at least ChatGPT
Mhm,
Omni 4.0,
mhm.
so that that it'll actually remember things that you write about, and it'll have like a running memory, just like,
Yep.
it's, so all kinds of cool things. And obviously I could probably go for all kind I can talk about that, but it does highlight that,
Yeah.
like you said, like, it is these learning language models and these AI tools, they require us as humans to put
Mhm.
in good information, because if you just type in a one sentence thing, it's going to give you a very, very weird sometimes, or broad answer, and it's going to sound okay, but it's also going to be maybe not the greatest. Um, so yeah, I love that alongside is being, is vetted by the mental health, community, I hope. And I want to learn more about that, and hopefully there's other platforms like that that will grow in the AI space.
Yeah, same, same. I'm
Mhm.
just, I'm really excited. Again, I keep thinking about, the tech for good. I think you mentioned something very
Mhm.
similar, right? Tech for good. Another space that I've been seeing how AI has being used in social work practice is, you know, there's been some research and some work done in housing, and for those who are in shelters, that how to make the best decision of who can get access and most needed to get the resources and things like that. So researchers are using AI algorithms to again figure out who is the best like sort of candidate who's most in need and making these decisions and using AI. So I think again, AI for good, but also in that same sphere as well. We can't just without have human oversight over that, right? Like we can
Right.
just
Yeah.
completely 100% leave it to these AI tools as well, but sort of thinking about an unbiased, more regulated decision making way. I think also has immense potential to solve some social problems that we have to like
Mm.
homelessness and housing. So that's also another really exciting realm of some of these AI tools. So it's like the Gen AI, sorry, the large language models to AI algorithms. And then also, I think in teaching, I know some MSW programs are using virtual reality to
Mm.
have MSW students practice. I think back to our beginning days of learning how to do therapy and counseling to have a
Mhm.
more ethical sort of space that maybe students can practice some of these conversations and practice speaking to a chatbot who's mimicking right a human in sort of
Mm.
therapeutic services, but having that sort of safe space to sort of to practice because we do know again I'm not advocating that we're never going to use any training or any sort of in person or even virtual right counseling or
Mm.
training internship opportunities, but that AI virtual AI could be a really great enhancement and tool to then help new practitioners learn how to do social work.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And speaking of, MSW programs, I'm curious about what you've seen in maybe some practical use cases for AI that you've used so far in the education space at the collegiate level. But you also go down to the K through 12 level too. But I'm
Yeah.
curious about, like, the impending generation of more recent graduations that are coming right down the pipeline. What have you seen in the MSW educational space as far as AI? Like, what are the students saying? What are
Yeah.
the other professors saying? Like, what's the pulse right now?
So I think the pulse is in varied spaces and places. I see some, professors really excited about these tools. I'm currently co-authoring a chapter right now with another social work professor who is just like, I am really excited about these tools, how to really teach our upcoming social work practitioners, those in the field, to get ready to use AI. So I think a lot about how we need to think about our assignments more critically and shift and change them so that they are incorporating the use of AI. Because I think a big hot topic in higher ed, and not just MSW programs, but I think just across the board,
Mm,
is plagiarism.
mhm,
And again, I my stance on this is that I don't want to be the plagiarism police. Plagiarizing has existed before AI; it's going to exist after AI. But
mm,
instead of being the plagiarism police, we also know that these plagiarism AI detectors do not work. They're
mm,
producing a lot of false positives. So instead of let's think about policing AI, I think about how can we actually use AI in our assignments
mm,
critically and intentionally, so we're really teaching how to use these tools ethically and responsibly. So I've I've done some assignments where I've had students, they have to enter in a prompt of one of the cases that they're working with to get intervention recommendations. I asked
mm,
them to give me the prompt. I've asked them to now give me exactly what ChatGPT has given you in the response of the recommendation, and then training and then asking the social work student to then use your critical thinking skills
mm,
and analyzing skills. Read over what ChatGPT has given you. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? What's missing? Because that's the real world implication that we're going to have to take with us,
yes.
in field. I've also encouraged my students, I teach an advocacy class, that if they wanted to use ChatGPT, they had an assignment where they had to do a 2-minute advocacy pitch to a change maker in their agency that they were working in for their field placement. And I said, don't, you have to make the speech from scratch, prompt it
Mm,
into ChatGPT.
mhm,
Again, just use it, but you want to make sure that you're reading over it. You're not just simply reading word for word what ChatGPT gave you. And then
mm,
they're also producing the speech in class. I have to give it out loud to the class, so they're getting those communication skills. But again, I think really sort of there's a pragmatic real world application to think about, our social workers will be doing the same exact thing in the real world by using
mm,
ChatGPT as a tool, as an administrative assistant. Why not use the same thing in our assignments? Doing 15-page papers, I think, is not going to be useful anymore. You could simply ask
mm.
ChatGPT to do that right now. So
Yeah.
that's in higher ed. I want to flip the switch. Let's think about us professors. The onus is on us to
Mhm,
shift and change, to make and create better assignments that are with the times. I mean, I think about the revolution of the internet.
mhm,
We're not researching papers like they did. That internet changed that, and I think the same thing's going to happen now. And then also speaking about K through 12 education, the same thing. I think we're going to be using these tools in the classroom. Education is definitely due for a shift, and I think this is going to push education in that shift to prepare our young people in public education, but also in the master's level too in our field.
nice, okay. So,
Mhm.
so one thing that I'm curious about and your perspective on is, do you think there will ever come a point where we're using AI as a crutch?
This question comes up a lot, and I
Mm,
think it's an important question to ask. And I think it's an important question for us to ask together as like a field, right? To kind of think
mm,
about what's going to be the parameters around AI and using AI. I think how important this question is going to come up in supervision and group supervision,
mm,
also as a question of agency policies, right? Like, where is going to be the line of when it's being too heavily relied on, and then like the human sort of aspect of like monitoring the use, and where is that sort of
mhm,
spot where it's really practical and helpful for us to use. I'm not exactly sure yet where that line is, and I know every person is a different type of learner, and that's why I get really stuck up on the word crutch, because what if I'm
mm,
somebody who is English is my second language? Or what if I'm
mhm,
somebody who has diverse learning needs? And using AI could just simply help me translate information. It could simply help me learn better and personalize my learning. And so I get a
mhm,
little worried about, again, going so far as to sort of police, how much is AI being a crutch, or how much should somebody be using it? But I think about,
mm,
the question should be like, how much is this supporting you ethically and responsibly, that you're using these tools to complete your job tasks, by while you're also following accordance to our agency guidelines and policies. Now I know
mm.
it's the Wild West right now, Joey. We don't have a lot of agencies not putting out policies right now.
Oh yeah.
So this is where I think there's a huge opportunity from macro practice all the way down
Mm,
to our organizations to really think about critically is what are our AI guidance and policies going to be? And that's going
mm,
to include both legality and compliance and social work ethics at the same time. I really feel strongly this has to be a conversation with all stakeholders who are in agencies and organizations, not just the social workers, not just
mm,
administrators, but also the clients, the consumers
mm,
of
mhm.
your agencies. But also this conversation can't happen without AI literacy. You can't create guidelines and policies without understanding how these tools are being used. So that is my calling to the profession. I think
Mm.
before we think about crutches, I want to think about two AI literacy and then AI policy to then really help us drive that conversation.
Yeah. And can you elaborate on what does AI literacy look like to you, and what do you think it's gonna look like in the future?
Yeah, so I think AI literacy in the future is this is always going to be shifting and changing, and I think that's a
Mhm.
part of AI literacy is that you are continuously learning, right? This is not just a one-stop shop. Like I learned AI one day and now I'm an expert.
Yeah.
Nobody right was an expert in AI. But I think really AI literacy for me is about understanding how these tools work. So it's more that pragmatic understanding about these tools, understanding the ethics behind these tools. So I think there's definitely an ethical component, the responsibility component, and I think also this commitment to continue your learning. And I think that's a big, big key piece because we're going to be have to continually be reskilling, upskilling as this technology unfolds. And I think a lot about the 21st century skills framework, where 21st
Mm.
century skills talks about how we need to be adaptable. We have to have critical thinking. And I think those key skills are going to be so important with AI literacy of being critically examining, being adaptive in this sort of wave of technology tools. And like I said, continuously learning as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I like that, and I wanted to also bring back, you had mentioned the macro side of things, and then you also had spoken at the NSW conference.
Mhm.
Um, what, at your level and your with your networking your networks and contacts, like,
Mhm.
what is the NSW? What are they talking about at their level, or what insights do you have at your level and at their level, if you could speak on
Yeah.
that?
No, I think that's a great question. So currently, as of right now, as our live streaming session is happening on July 10th, the
Mm,
NASW has not given out formal guidelines on AI use. In 2017, they did give out ethical guidelines for technology use in social
mm,
work practice. So AI has been around. It didn't just happen last year. It's been around
right.
for some time. But in 2017, we didn't have these large language models like we have today. So
Mhm.
part of my advocacy and really spreading this, information is also calling upon the NASW to develop some policies and ethical guidelines for us in using these tools. I know there's going to be more call for research, and there are some phenomenal researchers out there. Dr. Lori Goldkind from Fordham University. You have Jonathan Singer, who's doing some work in
Mm,
AI. Jonathan Rios, who's also doing some work and research in AI. So we have some amazing social worker practitioners and scholarly academics who are tackling this work already. But I know more research is going to be needed and done. So this at the NASW conference, there was a session dedicated our last morning, a call to social justice of leading the change of
mhm,
using AI in our field. So I do see it's embedded. It's been part of our conversation. There's been I know there's going to be more publications coming out there about this work. So, but there's certainly a lot more work that needs to be done.
mhm. Yeah, like, I imagine that, as, I know the NSW is focusing on the interstate compact licensing and things like that, which is great, but, AI, like we've said, is not going anywhere. It's here, and I'm just curious. I'm excited to see that they're taking it on. I know a lot of people, are gonna be curious as to, what is the direction of NSW gonna, you know, uh how are they going to incorporate it? What are the limitations going to be, and all that stuff. So I'm glad that the conversation is being had and that you're being at the forefront of that conversation. Um, I remembered back in, I think it was a couple months ago. I think I mentioned to you that there was the Social Work Futures Lab. This was like a 4-day virtual conference, and Jonathan Singer was there. I met him virtually,
Mhm.
and a lot of stuff was about AI. And I just was, as soon as I was literally, I think I was literally, I connected with you on LinkedIn, and you were like, "Oh, I didn't know about this," and I was just like, "Man, you need to be here, not me. Like, this is crazy." But it was great. It was a great symposium. Dr.
Yeah,
Lauren Nissen was amazing. Everyone on that platform was great, and I'm just going to plug them, the Social Work Futures
please.
Lab. Definitely check them out. That was a great thing, and they're asking the tough questions about AI in that conference, in the
Yes,
little breakout rooms and things like that. So it's definitely a conversation that's being had in the social work space. And
yes.
globally, not even just because, like, this was a global symposium, and
Mm,
there were people from all over the world that were in these conversations and asking the same type of questions that we are. So
mm.
I think that's the other thing that people don't understand, is that AI is global, and it's not a US thing. So we need to, yeah, as a social work profession, even more macro, like, these are the implications that we have to consider.
Yeah.
um, that's awesome. Yeah. So whenever the next social work features lab is going to be, I hope you're going to be there. You better be there. um,
I just, and
but
it's so funny that you brought that up too, because I just spoke with Juan Rios, one of the researchers that I mentioned earlier, who's doing some research and work in AI. And he's like, "You also should have been at the Futures Lab too." I'm like, "I know," and I joined. So I'm hoping to definitely be there at their next event that they have.
yeah, nice, nice. I mean, then again, you're all over the place, so I don't know how you would fit that in your schedule at this point. But I'm sure you find a way to make it work somehow.
I
But
do. I do, and I
um,
I
yeah,
will.
yeah. So I guess I did have something that jumped into my head when we were talking about um, school social work, or yeah, school social work. Do you see maybe a generational divide where the younger generation is going to fully embrace AI versus, like, maybe our generation, that middle generation, is going to be like, yeah, we'll adopt it maybe, and then the older generation is going to be like, I don't, no, I'm good. Do you think there's going to be a generational, like, gap or divide with the adoption of AI?
So I think there will be some of that, and I think that's with any technology, right?
Mm,
But I think one of the areas in education I'm also really concerned about is the digital divide. So
mm,
those that simply just don't have access to technology because they simply don't have access to the internet, they don't have access to these tools, and so I think in my arena in education, I think a lot more deeply about this sort of digital technology sort of advocacy, that we need to think critically about how are we going to prepare our young workers for the working
mm,
world of the 21st century working world
mhm,
when they don't have access to these tools. And so I
mm,
think so how important it is for public school education to teach and to use these tools in the classroom so we can better prepare our young people. But I think again the digital divide also exists even in our adult world, even in our profession, as well. So I think there's a lot of upskilling and reskilling that has to happen across the
mm,
board. I think of it more in terms of like resistance, but don't get me wrong. I even have some young people, even in my social work classes. I know I didn't. I know you answered this before, and I didn't bring it up, but I also have some social work students that are not interested in using these tools, and I want to
mm.
acknowledge that's okay. It's okay to have
Yeah.
your this is a personal choice. You don't have to use these tools, but I do want to ensure that you are prepared for working in this field to use these tools. And I say the same
Mm,
thing for those adopters who are a little bit more resistant about or more
mhm.
skeptical about using
Yeah.
these tools. And it might not just be older people, but it could also
Mm,
include younger people as well too. So I see it across the board that resistance is not just from older people; it's also from younger people too. Um,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm preparing them. Yeah.
That's a good point. because I think from what I've gleaned from some of the
Mhm.
conversations that I've had is that there are some people that feel like AI just takes the humanity out of things sometimes, and there maybe is a grain of truth in that, because sometimes you put in your human input, your and then it comes out with something that is human-ish, but it's not necessarily like it's obviously it's not your words. It's just taken your words and then turned it into, like a really nice polished thing. And I think a lot of people are struggling with the idea of like, like profession, like writers and content creators and things like that. They're like, you know, people are creating AI ads that used to take, hours and hours and hours, and now you just create, AI will just take clips. So like even this broadcast, like
Yes.
StreamYard will AI generate little clips that I could use versus me
Yeah.
having to go and edit every little bit of this. So yeah, like I guess there is a little bit of maybe a little disillusionment about the use of AIs for some people, because it's like a maybe like a purist thing too, where just like
Yeah.
they feel like it's taking away some of the creative element of
Yeah.
humanity. So but that's something that we'll just have to struggle with and deal with as a society, as a culture, I know with like the writer's strike in Hollywood, like they're all worried about AI, and rightfully so. I was messing ar- I literally was messing around. My wife and I were talking about Hollywood movies and the Academy Awards, and as a joke I was like, write me an Academy Award winning story or a movie, that is, I don't know, a few different things that I just threw something in there, and it popped out something, and I was like, wow, that's actually kind of interesting. Like I was just messing around with it, and I'm like, I would want to watch that movie almost. But then I'm just like, at the same time, I was thinking, what about all the people that were creating like these amazing stories in their minds, like from their own minds, versus someone that just kind of like threw something into an AI bot and come up with something actually decent, so it's like I definitely struggle with that a little bit too, where it's like, okay,
Mhm.
yeah, we have human creativity, but then it's now being filtered through these artificial intelligences. But that's more of I guess more of the, you know um, that's a higher level discussion. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, what are your thoughts on that, in general?
Yeah, no, I think you're raising really good points. Again, I think this is the dialectic. Both can be true, right? Bringing in our
Mm.
DBT skills in this conversation,
Yeah,
where I think
nice.
there's an opportunity for immense creativity. Like I
Mm.
know through creating, like you said, the fire social worker and the IA social worker, you created a great graphic for our event today. Like that, I can see this how it enhances your creativity. I could never come up with something like this, but I'm not one of those
Yeah,
talented, right, people that's
right.
brain works. And I think how creative I've been with my writing, because again, I'm still using my brain, my experience, my
Hmm.
professional and personal experience to think about the prompts that I'm going to be using, how I want to iterate my prompts. So I think it's a lot of ways pushed my writing to be a bit more creative in what I'm generating. And at the same time, I think that's also true as well. I think about those incredibly skilled and gifted artists out there that, again, without the use of AI, they're just incredibly creative and writing. Or, I definitely see there's the pros and cons of both. And I think both of these are going to be things we're going to be grappling with as we're embarking on not just like AI, but I think in the 21st century world, as more technology is being infused in our worlds and our lives every day.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And I was just thinking about it too. Like, what would happen if we took one of these really, really amazingly creative people and then put their stuff into AI? That could be a mind blowing thing. Of just like some amazing creative piece. So,
Mhm.
yeah. So I definitely think people are struggling with that concept a little bit, and just the implications of, okay, what is this AI laced future going to be like for us?
Mhm.
Um, but once again, I like the fact that we're able to have these types of conversations, and hopefully, we can push forward, like, hey, okay, these are some of the implications. How are we going to deal with this? How are we going to embrace it, but like maybe with a little bit of hesitancy or just a caution, because
Yep.
I know when AI, most people associate AI with things like Terminator, like Skynet, like that whole trope. I think it's pretty clear that that's not going to happen, but there's still some people that kind of have that thought process of like AI is going to take over the world and take over humanity. But I mean, I think if it were to happen, it probably would have already happened by now. But that's and I'm a science fiction nerd, so I mean, like I just love the idea of the fact that I think I mentioned in another show, but like um, growing up with sci-fi, nerding out on stuff like that as a kid, like our present is the sci-fi future that I was dreaming about in a lot of ways. We have smartphones, we have video calling, we have this right here. Like the fact that I was able to connect with you and we're doing this right now is
Right.
just sci-fi dream for me. Um, but but yeah, it does come at a cost maybe, and I think that we're all grappling with it and trying to live our lives, but then also try to make space for this, because like I said, I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon.
Yeah.
um and yeah, we're just trying to make the best of it, I think. um but all right, so that was a little tangent maybe, or a soapbox for me. But
Love
uh
it.
yeah. So I guess in one of the questions, and I think we talked about it a little bit, but like the your forecast for maybe, let's say, the next 5 years. I think we mentioned a timeline, but even
Mhm.
5, 10 years down the road, are you able to maybe predict or speculate what it's going to be like for us in that, and maybe as social workers, like, what do you envision, or what do you hope to envision, I guess I should say, with the implications of AI and using it?
Yeah, and I think back to I think back to a world where the internet was just starting and sort of the internet revolution, right? And now we can't imagine a world without the internet. It's not even a question if we're going to use it or not. It just is, and it's here.
Mm, mhm,
I That's what I envision in the next 5, 10 years to come, is that this wave of integration, adoption, and I'm sure just like the wave had happened with the internet revolution and Google and all these big wig names, and then sort of how this has played itself out, I think it's going to be the same for AI technology. There's also
mhm,
another part of me that says, because these technologies are growing fast and they're coming up with ways that I have a hard time even imagining too, I want to leave this
mhm.
space for, I don't know what's also going to come next in the 5 to 10 years. So what I'm
Yeah.
hoping for is integration, adoption. I'm hoping for ethical guidelines, responsible use. I'm hoping for that there's guidance across not just social work, but all sort of factors of education and different fields, and that there's some safeguards. I think there's just like there's a huge opportunity with AI and tech for good. Just like you said, there's also
Mhm,
tech for not so good. And
mhm.
so how do we as a collective global community put safeguards in that in place? So I definitely want to acknowledge that. I hope that in 10 years we've figured that out. Because right now it is feeling a little bit of the Wild West, that
Yeah.
this is growing really fast. And we know as social workers, legislation, policy, these things take time. Research takes
Mhm,
time. So I hope in
mhm.
5 to 10 years we have a bit more structure and answers, and that it's more adopted and integrated as well.
Yeah. So speaking of legislation, if you were to put on your social work hat of macro, advocacy as you're doing, what
Mhm.
would you like to see out of the legislators, and what would you like to see out of the government as a whole in maybe reining in some of these things at that level?
I think one of the big things that comes up for me is data security and privacy. And I
Mhm.
know as social workers, that's so important to us. I think about because let's be honest, we live in a capitalistic society, right? This
Yeah.
drives a lot of, and I think data is and it's financially, this probably more than
Mhm.
I do, right? That this is a huge commodity. But then to the consumer, to us as the public, what is being used with our data and data privacy and security. So for me, that's one of my biggest pressing issues. Another area of AI, I think about our most vulnerable population. And so I have to definitely name deep fakes, making
Mm,
videos about our vulnerable women, but also children that have been victimized by these technologies. And so,
mm,
how can we make sure that there's privacy protection and safety around that? I know I talk so much amazing things about these AI tools, but these are some pretty scary implications, right? And I think about
yeah.
health implications, safety implications of these pieces. So, definitely data security and safety are some of my big concerns for legislation.
Yeah. Yeah, I've
Mhm.
heard of some really concerning stories from school kids that are, dealing with deep fakes as a
Yeah.
form of cyberbullying, and that's
Mhm.
something that we never had to deal with. And then the fact that it continues, it's like evergreen content in the negative, where it's like now
Mhm.
that this deep fake is out there, it will follow that kid for forever almost, and then they'll never be able to get out of the shadow of that embarrassing. It wasn't even real, but like it's enough to
Right.
have an impact on their mental health. And
Mhm.
so yeah, there's I definitely acknowledge and do worry about the
Yeah.
implications of the negative side of AI. And we don't know what that maybe even fully looks like yet, um so that's something that I guess as advocates for AI, we just need to I guess just use our platforms and try to advocate for good use and ethical use, but also human use, and kind use of it, and like you said, tech for good, that whole thing. But yeah, I definitely I'm not oblivious to the fact that there are some concern, many legitimate concerns about the negative sides of AI. Um, but so I know, obviously, as the fire social worker, I am very curious about or very very passionate about financial literacy, um
Yes.
and all this other stuff. So I just wanted to I kind of pick your brain a little bit about as maybe not just even social workers, but in general in the educational space, how do you think we can use AI to increase our financial literacy? As I'm thinking macro at the school kid, because I just recently stumbled upon a company called Next Gen Personal Finance. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they work in the school system to provide um, kids with financial literacy. And it's also becoming a requirement. I think there's like 26 states now that legally have to have mandated that kids go through a semester of financial literacy before graduating. And California was just recently one that signed on to that. So in the AI space, how can I maybe as an advocate looking at the macro side of financial literacy, what would you recommend that I could do to embrace AI for good and
Mhm.
use your platform, but use my platform, and then try to make a difference in the financial literacy space?
Love this question. I think it's a very important question too. So I
Hmm.
think about it in a couple ways. One is for training and teaching of financial literacy. I think AI could be a really great tool, right, to help you create those to help you create those workshops, help you create those trainings, to help you create those, because I think this is the power of social media, right? Of giving out information democratically, that this could be a really great vehicle to help you in that. But then I think there's also the other side of teaching young people, but also marginalized communities who may not necessarily have access to this type of financial literacy and information on like
Hmm.
entrepreneurship. I want to put in a plug for the social work expat, and maybe you want to have her also come on your
All right,
guest.
writing it down right now.
So I'm going to connect you both. So
Okay.
the platform is about bringing both this like entrepreneurship tools with AI to
Mm,
historically marginalized communities and teaching, how can you create a t-shirt printing business with the use of AI
mm,
so you can generate income? How can you use
mm,
AI to make your book and then now you could sell your book for income? So I think there's a lot of exciting places in the intersection of not just financial literacy but entrepreneurship
mm.
for communities who either left out of the conversation, don't have access to, or have been historically just harmed by technology and are really mistrusting of it. And I really
Yeah.
love some of the work that she's doing, social work expat. So I'm going to put a little plug in for her, but I'm definitely going to connect you both after today's session.
Awesome. That's
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah.
And you bring up a great point that entrepreneurship, especially for people in the helping professions, we don't go to school for business. We don't know anything about this usually.
Mhm.
And as I've started to kind of like lean into the entrepreneurial side of things, AI has been huge. Like I said, it makes me feel like I'm a superhuman sometimes because I sound really smart sometimes when I created a business plan with ChatGPT's help, and people look at it and they're like, that's pretty good, and I'm like, do I take credit for this? Do I give ChatGPT all the credit? Like I'm kind of torn between that, but ultimately it is legitimately helping me kind of like start a
Yes.
business. I help me with my LLC and building that, and I'm like use now I'm like trying to leverage the AI space and the AI, like just the networking and the connections of like, okay,
Yes.
how do I grow even bigger if possible, to because like I'm thinking macro, like I love the micro aspect of like giving one-on-one counseling and group counseling for finances and things like that. I'm always been passionate about that. But now I'm thinking, with my social worker hat, like, well, there's a macro impact here that we could try to embrace, and that's where I'm at right now of like, okay, and once again, I'm using ChatGPT. I literally asked it, how do I create a macro impact? So once again, showing my addiction of ChatGPT, but it's given me like honest things that I'm like, I would have never thought about that. And that's one of those things. It's a thought tool that it augments your thoughts, and sometimes it makes them just fleshes out the ideas. Like you can ask it a simple enough question, but a very specific question sometimes, and it'll give you like just layers and layers and layers that you just never would have considered. So yeah, I'm very much in the mindset of embracing AI and for the entrepreneurial space, and because I'm also seeing a lot of social workers being
Yep.
entrepreneurial. It's a growing trend,
Yep.
and I love to see that. I've got a lot of social work like contacts and networks, some that I've never even physically met, but I know that they're financial social workers. Shout out to Rita Wolfson at the Center for Financial Social Work.
Mhm.
um like that network has been amazing, just learning from them, but then also trying to once again grow at the macro level of like advocacy, and
Yep.
um and democratizing like financial literacy to a point where everyone has access to it no matter where you are in life. So yeah, definitely. And if anyone on LinkedIn has some great information for me after this, hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm a sponge, and I'm at that stage of of my career where I'm like, networking is, I never
Mhm.
really cared about networking before, and now I'm just like, man, I've been wasting all this time when I should be like, and I'm actually in the mindset of like creating real connections with people. Like, it's not just like handing out business cards. I'm like, no, I want to connect with this person because I resonate with them, or that I like what they're doing. And I love the idea of creating a community of like-minded people that are pushing for a more positive future. So um but yeah, that's my soapbox for my vision of macro financial social work. But yeah, I would love to connect with anyone, and I've actually been using, so I wear a few different hats. Obviously, I'm a military veteran, so I am passionate about the veteran community, and I've been trying to, I have a podcast on the military broadcast radio platform, and we just talk about finances and money issues for the military community. And in that endeavor, I'm seeing another macro issue of like financial literacy in the military space. Like, as much as I appreciate all the things that the military has done for me in my time, um,
Mhm.
I do feel like there's more that they can be doing as an entity, as the DoD, to push for financial literacy and education and
Yeah.
assist throughout the whole life cycle of a military career. And they do it a little bit. I do remember a class in basic training on finances, and but I just feel like there's more that can be done because
Yeah.
there's an impact on the end when they transition out of the service and they become veterans. Like a lot of the veterans that I'm talking to now are like, I didn't get really a lot of great financial education while I was in the service. So
Mhm.
that's another kind of like avenue that I'm looking at, is like, how do I improve the finances of the military community as a macro, you know? Um, so I don't know, maybe my head is in the clouds too much lately, but I'm passionate about these things and these these different communities that I'm a part of,
Mhm.
and I'm just trying to do my best, to help people.
And Joey, what's amazing is that these are amazing platforms. These are amazing things to advocate for. And I know that AI is going to help you get there, because no matter what field of social work, no matter if you're micro, meso, macro, AI
Yeah.
is a place for you to do really great work. And I'm just excited to see all the great things that you're going to be doing. And I love it. Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think with our powers combined, we're gonna take down so many things and lift. I say take down as a negative. I like lifting. We're gonna lift up a
Yes.
lot of people, I hope.
Yes.
Keep it
Yes.
positive. But
Mhm.
there are some things that we can improve upon. Foundational things. And I love that you're in the education space. You're advocating. You're using your platform for good. You wrote your 83-page book and you're giving it out for free, which
Yes.
I know in the last broadcast you said that it's probably already out of date when Omni came out. So
Yep.
are you working on another iteration?
Yes, the
Yeah.
iteration is in process, because it is right. I published it in March for
Mhm.
Social Work Appreciation Month to give out to all my fellow social workers for free. And
Mhm.
what is it, March, and then what, June, May, we already had Omni 4.0.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, and I will be working on an iteration of a new edition just to include this updated technology. But
Mhm.
probably a couple months later, something else is going to be coming out too. So
Yeah.
have
Well,
to
I
see.
mean, even Apple and Google are now implementing AI, and I'm still not sure how I understand how this is going to work, but like they're implementing AI into the operating system level of the phones. I don't know. Do you know much about that, or have you looked into that much?
I haven't, but I did
Mm.
hear that they're going to be integrating, right? So we're going to have just literally at our fingertips, right? I have my
Mhm.
iPhone here,
Yeah,
literally
yeah.
at your fingertips to have this AI technology. Because again, Apple's another a big contender of our technology, and they're a big company. But
Mhm.
Microsoft has Copilot. We also have Google has Gemini. OpenAI has ChatGPT. Anthropic has Claude. So there's a couple of these big names out there, and again, they're competing, which is producing some competitions to see what
Mhm.
some great free tools out there. And personally, one of my favorites, I know I'm a big proponent of ChatGPT 4.0 is or 4 Omni is a great free version to have access to. Claude also just came out with a new 3.5 version a couple weeks ago, and that's been showing some really great promises as well as a new technology. But let's see what Apple's going to be doing now with this on the cell phone. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, integrating at the OS level, I see it as potentially huge. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, it might be gimmicky for all I know. But there may be just jumping on the bandwagon. But then you have like Elon Musk with the XAI, is that what it's called? Yeah, I think it's whatever it is. But yeah, so he's trying to get in the AI space. Everyone is trying to get in the space, and I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, like it does feel like the Wild West. But the good thing about I think the competition and the capitalism element of it is that it does create innovation, and it creates a push for, okay, what can we do to improve. So I
Yeah.
do like that aspect of it.
I wanted to also put in a plug, but I think this is where also social workers need to be part of this conversation and part of these companies, because
Mm,
thinking about designing tech for good, it starts at the beginning of designing these technologies. So
yeah.
yeah, I do agree with you that we're competition is driving innovation, and at the same time, if we're not still at the same time thinking about safety, ethical use, responsible use, which is so important for our
Mhm.
social workers, I advocate for more social workers in the tech realm as part of Apple, as part of Microsoft, as part of OpenAI and Anthropic, these companies, because we really do bring an important lens to this conversation. And social
Mhm.
workers, we could be in any field, right? And that's what I
Yeah.
think is so exciting is that I call for more social workers to do more work in this arena, and for companies to hire more social workers
Mm,
and social work consultants, so we could be there at the beginning of the design phase all the way through the testing phase and launching, so we could bring our critical lens to this work. So,
mm.
yeah.
So by consulting companies, you mean like MABD consulting?
Yeah, putting out a flag, putting Apple, you want to hire
I
me?
mean,
Like,
honestly, yeah, you would be you're at the forefront of this stuff. So yeah, if any companies need to embrace social work into the AI, then they need to be
yes.
hitting you up.
Thank you.
But no, yeah, like I love everything about this conversation, and I just oh, I think we lost her. Well, looks like we might have lost Dr. Marina, but she'll come back, I'm sure, hopefully soon. So yeah, I think that is ultimately going to be towards the end of our discussion. I know we've covered a lot of different topics, and I'm just grateful to have this platform and generate some topics of discussion. But we're gonna see if Dr. Marina might come back, and then we'll kind of jump off the stream. Um, but yeah, if anyone has any comments, I'm gonna check in real quick and just look at the chat to see if there's been any comments. But let me see. But yeah, I really appreciate everyone jumping in and listening onto the stream. Uh, oh, okay, Dr. Juan Rios, looking at the part two. Okay, so we're already being asked to come back and have another discussion. That's awesome. So yeah, thank you, Dr. Rios, for listening or watching. And maybe we can have like a roundtable discussion with others, interested social workers and players in this space to really elevate this conversation, to the levels that we're talking about, is the macro impacts of the yeah. So Dr. Marina is messaging me that she don't know what happened. She just got kicked off. She's trying to get back on. So yeah. Um, yeah, I love the fact that we can have these conversations. I'm hoping to really push for, uh, you know, more and more of these types of discussions with the thought leaders in the space that are the decision makers, like at the NASW level, CSWE, all these different components of the whole picture, the whole AI picture, and maybe even some of these tech companies. um, it would be awesome to have a tech company like literally working with social workers and creating tools that we can use that are vetted and all this other stuff. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And man, this has been a wild ride. Um let me see, we're gonna wait to see if Dr. Marina can come back. She's trying to get back. I know, once again, technology does not always play well. um but it is one of those things. You gotta have to make it work. um, and sometimes it doesn't always work the way you want it to. um, but yeah, I mean, with this live streaming stuff, like there's a lot of glitches sometimes, audio glitches and things like that. Oh, so all right, we got her back. All right, we're gonna add her.
I don't know what happened. I'm
That
so
was weird. I was
yes.
just, yeah, I was just saying, like, technology does not always play well, and I've never had that happen before. I don't know if
Yes.
yeah, so that was weird.
Yeah, and we are live, as you can see. We got
Yeah, as
I
you
know I
can
got
see.
kicked off. And I was, like, messaging you and this, I'm like, I hope you just know I'm trying to still get back on." But we made it, so now we're back.
Yeah, yeah. And we actually had a comment from Dr. Juan Rios, that,
Oh,
a great talk, look forward to part 2. So apparently
oh,
we're already being asked to do another chat. And as I was mentioning while you were off, kind of trying to
Mhm.
get back on, that it would be cool to have other thought leaders in the space, and having a roundtable type of discussion. So, yeah, if you know of anyone that might be interested in jumping on the next stream, that would be really cool.
Yeah, you should invite Juan Rios because he's also a leader in this work too. So
Okay, yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
can
I
those
will
to
reach out to him,
yeah.
because I'm definitely starting to notice there are people that are thought leaders in the space, and almost feel like just the facilitator slash a fan, like I'm interested in the space, and I want to provide platforms for the the change makers, um,
Yes.
so I would love to have Dr. Rios on. So that's my call to action, Dr. Rios. We're gonna have you on. We're gonna have a round table, and we want to get some other perspectives on this discussion. And
Mhm.
maybe this could be just a regular running thing where we try to connect, and just having an AI roundtable for social workers. And that's a cool idea. Dr. Rios says you rock, Marina. So that's
Thank
awesome.
you. That's
um,
awesome. Thank you. I'm just appreciative for everyone that signed on to listen to our awesome conversation. And Joey, it's just been phenomenal to have this platform and to really speak about these really, really important issues. So thank
mhm.
you.
Yeah. I'm just glad that you agreed to come on. Like I think my post was about, like, you had commented that, oh, I love that you're incorporating AI into the financial literacy space, and I was just like, okay, I want to have you on, and then you were like, okay, like, I was
Let's
like,
do it. Yeah.
what
Yeah.
life is this is crazy. So I feel like I'm meeting my idols. Well, I am meeting my idols, and it's just I'm just a fanboy at this point. But I love the conversations that we're having, and the discussions that you're putting out there, and the thought provoking things you're putting out in LinkedIn, and your socials. So obviously we're on LinkedIn, but is what if someone wanted to reach out to you? What would be the best way to connect?
Yeah, so I mean, certainly find me on LinkedIn. I'm there, so you could definitely get me on LinkedIn. Also, I have a website, mabdconsulting.com, and then I also have my Instagram account. So it's underscore the AI social worker, and you can find me there.
Okay. So what do you got on the horizon? I know you did, like I mentioned, the NSW. You did some symposiums, but do you have any other things that you've got
Yeah.
scheduled?
Yeah, so I'm co-authoring a book chapter that should be coming out on AI in teaching and higher ed. I also will be presenting at Castle. So for those, school social workers, those in education, the national, well, actually it's international Castle, who does the leading work on social emotional learning. I will be doing a talk on using AI to help with social emotional learning lesson planning in schools. So I have that coming up in November. And then also this upcoming year at NYU, I'm part of, I like to say, the dream team. There's a couple of us who are doing a postgraduate training for school social workers, and our application is still open. I'll be teaching in the spring a 7-week module on incorporating data, technology, and AI in school social work practice. So those are some of the few things that I have in the works. I am trying to launch a YouTube channel. So now that I'm
Oh,
putting
okay.
this on the public space, I have to now hold myself to it, but that is something on my horizon. And also launching another website dedicated to the AI social worker. I really, really just am passionate about bringing just free information for our field to do tech for good, to help make our lives easier, more efficient, and I'm just excited for what's to come. Yeah.
Likewise, I think there's some great things on the horizon, and I'm here for it. So if there's any questions that people might have, you can always comment on the stream, and then I'll engage with users after the fact. We have another just says LinkedIn user, but it says agree she's awesome, a great leader and mentor. So we have a lot of people appreciative of what you're doing, including me, and just stay tuned to the space. Obviously, we have some interest in maybe doing another series of these. Have some other
Mhm.
like-minded people to talk about these types of things. So yeah, that's exciting. And as far as me, so I'm a certified financial social worker. I do have a website. Well, no, actually, my website is still in development too. But the Fire Social Worker is kind of like my brand. I don't know, like it was just an idea. Like fire is financial independence, retire early, so that's kind of like a trending thing. But I've been in space for almost 10 years, and I just thought about the idea of like, okay, I want to do financial independence but as a social worker. So that's how the Fire Social Worker came to be. So I've just been advocating for my social worker crew, my team, like, hey, let's elevate all social workers with financial literacy and advice. And so I'm just putting stuff out there, once again, free content, just to have discussions about finances, really to embrace the financial social work model, which is to have a more holistic approach to managing finances, instead of just looking at the numbers, looking more at the psychology of your financial management. So yeah, that's what I've been working on, and what I hope to continue working on. And I'm just loving the financial social work space. I think there's some good things coming from our organization, the Center for Financial Social Work. So stay tuned for more financial content. I could talk about financial stuff for, man, hours on end. So I don't think I'll run out of content, but maybe people will get tired of hearing me speak after a certain amount of time, but I hope not. I just, like, I love talking to people and learning from them, because I'm always learning. And the financial space is just as broad as the social work space. So I'm talking to certified financial planners and coaches and all this stuff. So that's I guess that's just my shameless plug for what I'm all about. But I am genuinely interested in AI, and I use it all the time, and this is something that I'm also passionate about too. So
Mhm.
um with all that being said, do you have anything else for the audience at this point? I think we've covered the whole spectrum at this point. But
I think we
I
did.
mentioned it. I mentioned I had all these questions that AI generated, and we didn't even cover some of them. So we do still have plenty of content
Yeah.
to talk about. So,
Yes.
um, all right. So I guess with that being said, I appreciate once again everyone jumping on the stream now, later, you know, down the road, and just engage with us and ask questions, and we'll see you guys on the next stream.
Yes. All right. Take care, Joey. Thank you,
All
everybody,
right.
for listening. Have a great
All right.
one.
You too. All right. Take care, everybody.